I mean, my fantasy series, of course, is often compared to Tolkien, and I've talked in many interviews about and I love Tolkien. I'm the biggest fan in the world of Lord of the Rings, but
Me too. Yeah.
Tolkien's view of good and evil in that is evil is externalized. It comes from Sauron or Morgoth before it, and there are orcs who are absolutely irredeemable, and the good people get together and stop the orcs, and most of the good people are good. I've always been more attracted to gray characters, and I've said in many interviews, well, I do think the battle of good and evil is a great subject for fiction, but in my view, the battle for good and evil is waged within the individual human heart, and it's our decisions. We're all partly good and partly evil, and we make decisions every day, and we may do a good thing on Wednesday and then an evil thing on Thursday, or a selfish thing, and it's all very complicated, and that's kind of the approach that I've taken. But I'm also a huge fan of Lovecraft, and I think you are too from reading some of your books, and I see Lovecraftian influences in things like the end of Revival, the vision of the afterlife there is a terrifying Lovecraftian moment of the short story. The name I'm forgetting, about the standing stones that everyone who sees them gets OCD. That's a very Lovecraftian story.
It's an easy title to forget. It's just N.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
And The Mist. The Mist is another incredible story. Very Lovecraftian, this mist escapes and who knows what the hell is in there, but it's really scary in there.
It's going to be a TV series from Spike, too, and I think it might be interesting.
Wow. But, even though I see the Lovecraftian things, when I look at your books, the real villains are the people. I mean, Carrie kills a lot of people in that high school, but she's not the villain. The villain is the mother and the other kids who torment her and do that. Misery, Annie Wilkes is what a horrifying creation, and one that both you and I live in constant terror of, and any successful writer.
Right.
And by the way, we were talking earlier in the green room there, and Steve asked if anyone ever showed up at my home, and people do occasionally show up at my home. But the creepiest thing that ever happened to me is one day there was a package in my mail, and I opened it, and it was just a paperback copy of Misery, with no letter, nothing, just some unknown fan.
It was from your number one fan.
I mean, Under the Dome, maybe you can say the aliens are the villains who've trapped it, but it's really the horrible, ordinary people under the dome who start doing these incredibly horrible things to each other. And Brady Hartsfield is a very clear and vivid example of that. Just a human being who's, The Mist is another one. I mean, there's the Lovecraftian monsters, but it's the crazy religious woman in the thing who really makes things 1,000 times worse. So, I don't know, what are your views on the nature of evil? Is there an external evil in the universe? Is it Sauron or Satan or Cthulhu? Or is it our own fucked up human natures?
It's interesting because you're right. There's no Sauron in the Thrones games. I mean, the evil weaves itself in and out the same way that the good weaves itself in and out of the characters. And one of the things about the thing is, I wrote a series of books called The Dark Tower, and those books were all done. Basically, the 7 Dark Tower books are one long novel that never got edited because they were done either as short stories or they were done as limited editions from Donald Grant Press. Nobody edited them and nobody copy edited them, so I went back and I revised the first one, and I really need to go back to all of them. And one of the things in there that to me is a problem is my version of Sauron was the Crimson King. you know, and you see this mark, the eye of the king, all the time. That's outside evil. And in a way, outside evil is a more comforting concept than, you know, the idea that the devil made me do it is a way of shucking responsibility and saying that I'm not there. So I think that we all understand that evil is inside a lot of people, and yet at the same time, I think that what a lot of, and I'm not expressing this very well, but what a lot of horror fiction does and what a lot of fantastic fiction does is it allows us to grapple with the outside evil that strikes us. You know, you get a call on the phone that says, your cousin is dead because he was in that Orlando nightclub. Or you get a call like in the thing that makes End of Watch start. You get a diagnosis from the doctor that says you have cancer and you're probably going to die within the course of 16, 17 months because this thing's just gone too far, and it's the kind that's, you know, in the book it's pancreatic cancer. And it's not a spoiler really because it's on page 9, for Christ's sake. So, you know. So don't yell at me. I hate this thing about spoilers. Wow, 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 you spoiled this, you spoiled that. You can't spoil a book. Jesus Christ, it's a story. I mean, you go in there to have the experience. It isn't like, you know, getting a G.I. Joe from the, you know, in your cereal box or something. I told you I'm
Rosebud
not
is the sled.
Yeah, I'm not expressing that very well. So there are two kinds of evil. There's inside evil and there's outside evil. And I think that when we have the stories like, you know, N and the Lovecraftian stuff, we're trying to cope with the sort of things that happen in our lives that are bad things that we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.